Good morning, everybody. Let's go ahead and get started. Just as an FYI, we are recording this session so we can post it on our website so you guys can view it later and those who couldn't attend can view it. But my name is Katie Ratley, and I had the privilege of serving as the 21-22 Research and Development Chair for the Junior League of Dallas. Thank you all for joining us today. We are so excited to speak with you about our organization and all of the various ways in which we partner with the community. So not only will we tell you everything you need to know about our various programs, but we'll give you insight on what we're looking for regarding our partnerships. Next slide, please. So a quick run through on our topics today. First, we'll do an introduction on who we are and the impact that we have on the community. And next, we'll walk you through our various programs and how to apply. And then finally, we'll use breakout rooms by program to answer any questions that you may have on your end. So just as a reminder, we are recording this presentation and we'll have the presentation materials and the recording available on our website afterwards. Next slide. So first and foremost, I want to introduce you all to our leadership team. It's important to note that we all serve in our various roles in one-year terms, and January through June is our incoming outgoing overlap. And so today we have representation from both our incoming and outgoing leadership teams in many of these areas. Next slide. So for those of you who don't know us very well, who are we? The Junior League of Dallas is an organization of women committed to promoting volunteerism, developing the potential of women, and improving the community through the effective action and leadership of trained volunteers. Next slide. So within that mission, we actually organize ourselves within 6 issue areas, and these are our key focus areas and how we contribute to the community. And each of these issue areas have their own mission statements in return. So specifically, we have arts and cultural enrichment. We focus on education, family preservation, health, poverty intervention, and violence intervention. Next slide. We're also incredibly proud of the positive impact that we have on our community. In 21-22, our nearly 5,000 volunteers will provide more than 130,000 uncompensated volunteer hours. We give $1 million annually to support local not-for-profits. And our members' impact extends beyond partnerships with the League. We sit on more than 50 boards in the not-for-profit community. And over the last 100 years, Junior League members have gone on to start some of the most impactful not-for-profits in our community. So with that, I want to take some time to walk you through each of our program opportunities. Next slide. Well, I'll start by introducing you to Priscilla Wood, our Kids in the Kitchen chair. Priscilla?
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for attending today's call. I'm so excited to talk to you all about Kids in the Kitchen program. Next slide. So the Kids in the Kitchen program is sponsored by United Healthcare, and much like their mission of helping people live healthier lives, the mission of Kids in the Kitchen is to reverse the growth of childhood obesity and its associated health issues. Kids in the Kitchen is geared towards the youth of Dallas, primarily those grades of K through 5. This is an 8-week curriculum, but the past 2 years, due to the COVID pandemic, we have condensed the program to 5 years, but included, just like as a normal 8-week curriculum, students and agencies will receive nutrition information, fitness activities, recipe cards. We just had our Train the Trainer event at the end of January, in which all of our agencies came out in person, and we sent them off with so many goodies that included toaster ovens, medicine balls, all the dry goods needed to complete the recipes that are included in the program, as well as some other goods to facilitate some of the activities that are included in the curriculum. Next slide, please. We do have an application that is available online by visiting the jld.net and locating the community tab. You can click on the Kids in the Kitchen. You'll scroll down to the application, and then you can complete the application and send it to our direct inbox, kidsinthekitchen@jld.net. We are in full swing of the program currently, so I will say maybe a little bit later in the next couple of months, we will have direct access to the application on our Junior League of Dallas Kids in the Kitchen webpage. On that website, you also have a peek into what the curriculum included this year. So I highly encourage you to maybe explore that website as well if you have a chance. Our application deadline is Monday, May 31st, 2022. And as we get into that year, we will make sure to send out reminders so that everybody can go out and complete the application and we can have you participate in next year's program. I will now turn it over to Sarah.
Thank you, and thank you all for being here. I'm excited to talk to you about community outreach. If you can flip to the next slide, thank you. So we operate a community assistance fund to provide emergency funding for unplanned events that affect nonprofit agencies. One of the requirements is that your agency must address a critical human need in Dallas County. But through this fund, we are able to award up to $5,000 per agency and we accept applications on a rolling basis throughout the year until our funds are diminished. Next slide, please. So again, as long as your agency supports that critical human need element, you are welcome to submit applications through our website, and they are accepted throughout the year. I will also mention that we do have funding left this year. And so if your agency is currently experiencing an emergency need or has within the last month, I encourage you to go ahead and fill out an application now for this year's group to review. Okay, next slide, please. And with that, the last thing I will mention before turning it over is we also support seasonal projects through our group, and often those are opportunities that we look to partner with agencies. So if you don't feel like you have an emergency need, but maybe you need volunteer support or have some other area, we are more than happy to listen to those needs. And if we feel like it's a good fit, we may be able to work in a seasonal project in the future. So whatever your needs are, I encourage you to reach out and just let us know so that we have time to review and talk to our committee and see if there's an opportunity for us to help out. With that, I will turn it over to Netta.
Thanks, Sarah. Good morning, everyone. My name is Netta Baramnajad. I have the honor of serving as provisional chair this year. And I am going to talk specifically about provisionals and the projects. Next slide, please. So the provisional program involves a provisional project, regular provisional training meetings that include speakers from some of our agencies that the league supports. We have small groups where they will work with their small group advisors and meet smaller groups within their provisional class, as well as hold social events. The purpose is that an active year requires 60 hours worth of volunteer, and the provisional year is set up to require about the same level of commitment through both service and meetings, one of which is a provisional project. Next slide, please. So each project we ask have about 20 hours of service opportunities. They are typically held in one weekend or over a couple of weekends. And we ask that they take about 25 to 35 provisionals. And with the lovingness of COVID, we are now having both virtual projects or in-person projects or a combination of both. Next slide, please. So we ask that each project make an immediate impact to the agency. We want our provisionals to work in a group setting, and we ask that the agency provide a staff member to oversee the project, along with a project coordinator that we will have on site as well. Some examples for projects that we had this year was Mission Oak Cliff. We had a back to school bash where we had delivered some backpacks and school supplies to students. We did a beautification project at the senior source. Our wonderful St. Philip's and their Christmas store that's been a continuous project that we've had for a couple of years in a row. And then more recently, a new one this year, Rainbow Days with the Feel Good Friday that will give goodie bags. We provide funding up to $700 per project. We do ask that a budget worksheet be filled out along with the application. And our application deadline is the same as the community one, which is Wednesday, April 6th by 5 p.m. Thanks so much. And I look forward to seeing what provisional projects we have for next year. Next up, Lauren with transfers.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Lauren. I am going to be the incoming transfer chair next year. I'm currently the assistant project chair. And so can I get the next slide? So what a transfer is a woman that has moved to the Dallas area who's previously been in another junior league. And we have a program kind of to initiate them because every league's a little bit different. And so what that includes is also a project. So we have the project. So not only can they get involved in the Dallas community, which is great, kind of interact with agencies, but also they get to know the other transfers because a lot of people move here and they don't know anyone and our league is huge. So it's kind of a little different if you move from a smaller town or, just the Dallas Junior League is so great and so big. And so I think it's a lot different sometimes for people. So it's a great way for everyone to get together in person, spend the day together, and of course, volunteer together. Can I have the next slide? So each project we're asking between 6 and 8 hours of service. So it's a one-day project with the 1 hour lunch break included. And we're looking for projects that support between 25 and 40 volunteers. Next slide, please. And so, of course, we want to make an immediate impact to the agency and as well as having our transfers interact with each other. Like I said, there's a social aspect to it as well, but what we really want to do is make an impact on our community. And so our application deadline is Monday, April 18th at 5. And that's it for me. I'll pass it back to Katie.
Hi, thank you, Lauren. Also, as we go along, if you have any questions throughout, you can actually type them into the chat box and one of our Junior League experts will be happy to answer any of your questions through the chat before we step away into our Q&A breakout rooms. And so what I want to walk you through today is last but not least, we have our community program. And our community program is a stickier partnership. We typically last at least a year. Some of our partnerships have lasted for decades. And it's through this partnership that we define a specific volunteer opportunity for our members. And we allocate dedicated volunteers to your not-for-profit and provide a specific annual grant amount. So next slide. So all of this is established through our Research and Development Committee, or R&D. So we review every application for our community program, and current members are re-reviewed every year by a committee called R&D. So who is R&D? They're a committee of over 50 women who all offer various levels of expertise. After all of our applications go through an initial review process, we have 2 teams who conduct both a qualitative review, and this is done through our researchers who review the impact of your not-for-profit, alignment with JLD's mission, what our volunteers will do for your institution, and so on. And then secondly, we have a quantitative review. We have a team that's conducting an analysis on your financial statements. And from there, your application will go through a series of committees who will build out and finalize our community program for the next year, allocate our volunteers, and define all of the individual grant amounts. Once determined, we go through a series of votes from our members, and just noting, our reviews are very thorough. The entire process runs from April until November. Next slide. Because of this stickier kind of relationship, we actually do require some additional documentations aside from our other various partnerships. And so here's a list of all of the documents that we do require. So the grant application and community impact report can be found on our website, and the rest are all standard financial, insurance, 501c3 status forms, etc. So next slide. One particular document that we find to be incredibly important is our community impact report. I want to highlight the importance of this. Not only does it help us get a pulse on how you serve the needs of Dallas, but it also helps us understand how we as a league support your community. The success stories that you guys provide energize our members, especially when they see the results of all of their efforts. Next slide. So what are we looking for in our community partnerships? So from a best practice perspective, what stands out to our committee? Volunteer opportunities in the evenings and the weekends. Most of our membership base works outside of the home, and they look for opportunities to serve the community outside of the standard workday. We want clear descriptions on what our volunteers will be doing. Also, just as a quick note on concentrated placements, we actually do have several agency partnerships where we do use concentrated placements. And this is, we have our volunteers help at a conference or help at a specific food drive or holiday drive, etc. Typically, what is easier and more attractive to our memberships is to pair these concentrated opportunities with recurring volunteer opportunities as well. It's also helpful if there's multiple opportunities for our volunteers to earn hours. A great example is our partnership with North Texas Food Bank. Our volunteers can work in the distribution center and pick up extra hours on food drives or with their mobile food truck. Next slide. So the most common reason for a release. The biggest one that I typically see is it's just too difficult for our members to get their required 60 hours. Sometimes locations on where our volunteers serve are unclear, potentially unsafe. If your agency just doesn't align well with our mission or any of the missions of our individual 6 issue areas. And then potentially failure to fully complete your application. And just a quick note, while unstable financials is a common reason for release, we do recognize that COVID has been disruptive to a lot of our community partners throughout Dallas. To the extent that you have any sort of swings or items of note, it's always incredibly helpful that you provide some sort of document, Word document, something to that effect, just an explanation of what happened so our financial analysts can understand while they review. Next slide, please. Just other important items of note. All of our projects require a minimum of 10 volunteers. Within the community program, we do not send money without volunteers. It's also against our policies for our members to be directly involved with fundraising, medical research, political, or religious activities. Now, to clarify, you can be a religious-based organization or a political-based organization, but our members cannot participate in religious activities on your behalf. We also require a JLD member to hold an ex officio position on your board. And all of our agencies must be willing to hold an orientation and any relevant training sessions before our volunteers start contributing. So next slide. So I'm certain the next question on everyone's mind is, how do I apply? Well, first and foremost, you go to our website, jld.net. The deadline for our community program is April 6th at 5 p.m. And remember, all applications must be submitted online. We cannot accept hard copies. So next up, I'm going to do a quick high-level overview on our application instructions, noting that this presentation will be published on our website after this workshop to act as a guide. Next slide. So first and foremost, jld.net, this is what our website looks like. The menu you're looking for is in the top right corner. Next slide. Once you click that support button, you'll see this drop down come down. You want to look for request our support. Next slide. And then from here, this is where you will select whether you are a returning applicant to the community program or a new applicant to the returning program or community program. From there, it'll prompt you to further instructions. Next slide. Here is where you should see this screen pop up and select agency resources. Next. And then from here, you'll see a listing of all of our various programs. This is the community program that I am speaking of, and all of the other programs spoken of by all of the ladies today. Choose which one is appropriate for you. And next slide. Here is where you will be prompted to upload all of your documents. And just note, remember, our applications and our community impact report, if you are applying for the community program, will be available to pull from these websites or from this website. Next. Once your documents are all uploaded, click OK, but remember, you are not done yet. You still have one more additional step. Next slide. You will need to log back in to actually submit your application. Next slide. Select the type that you're looking for. R&D project would mean community program, the amount of funds requested and volunteers, and your completed application. And from there, you can click submit. Next slide. From there, your home screen will look like this. And you see at the very bottom where you have your email history, that will show that you have submitted your application. And you should see some sort of recognition in that box. Next slide. And then next steps. Your applications will be routed to whatever relevant group they will review. And oftentimes you will be contacted by members of the league if they need additional information, clarification. Sometimes you'll get requests for site visits, etc. Now, we don't post application status on the website, but if you have any questions or concerns regarding the status of your application, please contact Christiane Hinkamp at this email address as well. She is the oracle of all things community within our junior league staff. And next slide. And just by quick way of reminder, before we go into breakout rooms, just to remember, the deadline for our community program is April 6th at 5 p.m. And with that, you guys should all be getting a prompt to send you guys to a specific breakout room to the extent that you guys have any sort of questions. Each breakout room will be manned by, or I guess womaned by a representative from the junior league from that respective area. I hope to see you guys there.